Double flange technique. Here I am going to show you all the tips that you need to deal with aphakia. Here I started with marking the axis where I will fix my IOL, then using the caliper 2 mm behind the limbus, another 2 mm parallel to the limbus also, then opening two side ports using anterior vitrectomy enhancement with the kinacort injection to see the vitreous in the AC. Now doing anterior vitrectomy, another kinacort injection to be sure that the AC is clear as you see, then injecting OVD and open 2.2 millimeter clear corneal incision. Here preparing of the IOL, it is IQ acrylic hydrophobic single piece IOL as you can see, using now 27 gauge needle to do a small hole in the optic at the junction between the optic and the haptic, then trailing 6O proline through this hole and doing a flange using low temperature cautery as you see. Here is the first flange of the 6O proline. It's just about 3.5 to 4 millimeters of this proline. We can make a flange, then another hole in the opposite side using 27 gauge as you can see at the junction between the optic and the haptic, also trailing 6O proline and doing a flange with 3.5 to 4 millimeters from this proline suture. Using a low temperature cautery, you can see 3.5 to 4 millimeters. This is the flange. Now I have two flanks in this single piece acrylic IOL. Now to know the trailing haptic, I make the proline suture longer for the trailing haptic than the second one. Then inserting this proline through the cartridge, which is the cartridge for 2.2 millimeter clear corneal incision. You can see now I am also inserting the both sutures inside the cartridge, then inserting the IOL in this cartridge. Now you can see I have one suture long, another is shorter than the trailing haptic. In this way I can know which one I will implant first. Now the IOL is prepared very well, inserted inside the cartridge. Now put the cartridge in the injector. Now you can see here I have long one and short 6O proline. The long one is for the trailing haptic. Now asking my assistant to hold this one near to the patient's eye. As you can see, one long and one short. Now using 27 gauge needle to go parallel with the limbus 2 millimeter, then go radial 2 millimeter behind the limbus into the posterior chamber behind the iris through this small pupil. Then you can see now holding the long 6O proline with the micro forceps and inserting inside this 27 gauge needle as you see, then pulling it out. You can see now the 6O proline is out through the sclera, then just doing a secure flange to keep the suture out. Another 2 millimeter also parallel to the limbus in the opposite side, and then go radial behind the iris through this small pupil, also using a micro forceps to trailing the short 6O proline through this 27 gauge needle and pulling it out through the sclera, as you can see now. Now pulling it out through the opposite side, you can see. Then holding, also do another secure flange. This is not the final flange, this is just securing. You can see now pulling the both side of the 6O prolene, then implanting the IOL. Then you can pull the both side of the 6O prolene and using the sense key to adjust the IOL behind the iris. You can see now the IOL behind the iris and pulling the 6O prolene from both sides. You can see the IOL is centered very well behind the iris. Now just about 3.5 to 4 millimeters of the prolene, doing the final flange using the low temperature cautery, as you see the first side, then also on the opposite side 3.5 millimeters, doing the final flange for the opposite side using the low temperature cautery. As you can see now, the single piece hydrophobic acrylic IOL inserted through 2.2 millimeter clear corneal incision, implanted and fixated very well through this 6O prolene using the double flange. Now washing the viscoelastic from the anterior chamber and also checking the stability of the IOL. It is a stable IOL. Then doing the stromal hydration of the incision. You can see the pupil is rounded very well, the IOL is centered very well, and the technique is very nice. You can see here the flange is covered by the conjunctiva, and thank you for watching this video.